Welcome to Southern Sense Talk on Rumble. You are going to love Annie the Radio Chickadee Ubelis and her co-host, C.S. Bennett. You'll find them live here on Fridays from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Date Time. Check out their website at Southern Sense, as in commonsense.net. It's that easy, southernsense.net. So sit back and relax. They're informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey.
Oh, welcome to another adventure on Southern Sense. And of course, Annie's going to screw up the beginning from the get-go. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, Annie Ubelis, along with my co-host who's going, all right, what is she going to screw up now today? Curtis C.S. Bennett. Oh, man. Well, happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. For those who are watching us, there you'll see a little QR code that we pop up. If you scan that with your smart device, you can always find our show through there on StreamYard and catch our previous episodes also. So we got a lot to do today. There's so much going on. We've got two great guests. And you know what? I put the wrong thing down on the title. I'm going to kick myself in the butt. We have D and H, which is David and Umberto Cancino. They are a father and son team of authors. They have what they call the Gabriel Locke series of books. It's going to be a series of 7 books, and they've already got the first 2 out. And then on the second half of the show, we've got Nathan Worcester with the Epoch Times, and that's going to be a lot of fun with everything that's been going on lately. I mean, holy cow. We've got the election of Mandami coming up. Trump has just come back from his trip in Asia. We're now getting a large exports of soy that is going to be soybeans going to China. And that's a huge, huge, big deal to the farmers here in the United States. He's made other trade agreements with the other countries in Asia, like Malaysia, Thailand, and so forth. So it's a lot of exciting stuff going on here. But we still have the government shutdown.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a big thing that we're going to talk about. Yeah, 31 days. And on November 1st, a lot of things are going to happen. No more SNAP. No more SNAP. That's the food program. And several people have already posted on TikTok and other social websites that if they don't get their SNAP, they don't get that benefit from the government on November 1st, they're still going to go shopping and they're just going to steal the stuff. Is this what we have actually come to? That, you know, human decency has really gone that bad? That if I don't get what I want when I want, I'm just going to turn around and break the law. So, like I said, we've got a lot to talk about and a lot to do. Like I said, I've been so discombobulated. For those that watch, you know, I do have a bad back. And on Wednesday, they did a procedure on my back, not a surgical one. They did it with a bunch of needles and other stuff, not acupuncture, where they helped to stop the pain that's coming from my spine. So if I seem a little discombobulated, I'm on the recouping edge. And so I get a little wacky at this point. And no, I'm still not under the anesthesia. It's been too long. Yeah. Like I said, I was telling you off air that this morning was the first time I was actually able to put my shoes and socks on without tremendous amount of pain. And I was able to actually lift my leg and put the shoe on. I was like, holy cow, I haven't done that in years. So to me, it's so great. And no, I have not been walking around barefoot.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Well, I'm getting something. I'm getting a device called the H-Wave, and that's supposed to penetrate deeper and be much better than those regular machines they give you for pain.
Like the TENS? Like the TENS unit?
Yeah, like TENS, right? But this is more powerful, penetrates deeper. So it's called the H-Wave.
Yeah. I mean, there's new technologies coming out in the medical field, and God bless. I mean, people like you and I that have various problems, I think mine are like minor compared to people I see and know. So that's why I don't normally say anything, but I'm just so glad. I've just been so happy that this is working so well. I had got a new doctor out of the Medical University of South Carolina up the Charleston area, and it is a blessing. It is a great blessing. So the men and women that work in the medical field, they are miracle workers. They really are. And I can't say how much I appreciate the goodness of these workers, the ones that are extremely dedicated and actually care about the patients that they deal with. And that's the big thing. They actually care. And that means a lot. It really
It
does.
does.
All right. So I have a bunch of stuff like I said we can talk about. There was a huge arrest in the Memphis area. They got something like 1,500 illegal aliens, criminal illegal aliens off the street. California, the DOJ is warning California officials to stand down on the threats to prosecute ICE agents if they wear the masks or shield their face. That's a good thing. There's a lot going on. It was Ohio. Over 1,000 non-citizens have been sent to prosecution for DOJ. Wow. Like I
Well,
said, there's a lot going on.
they just had a major operation in Philadelphia where they took out a whole gang operation. I mean, they're gone. I mean, they came in with everything: SWAT, FBI, DEA.
Mhm.
They need it
Now,
in these urban areas.
I'm only second generation American, and my family's background goes back to Italy and Germany, pre-World War One, and both of my grandfathers served in the American Army during World War One. My father served during World War Two. Um, we have a proud history as Americans, but we came over legally. My late husband was a legal immigrant that was fleeing communism and Nazi Germany. His father having fought against the Nazis and the Soviets in World War II. They came to appreciate what America truly stands for. And every day we see it taken down, and that really hurts. You served. You served proudly in our nation's Navy. And I can't even imagine what's going through your head when you see people on the outside coming in and trying to destroy the heart of America. And Zoran Mandami is a perfect example of someone who should not be here.
Yeah, you have to wonder about those New Yorkers and what they're thinking.
That's why I left. Oh, there goes my camera program again.
Well,
Let's bring us back up. But I don't.
it seemed like all the sensible people left New York.
Yeah, like me.
Sean Hannity, Rush when he was alive.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people have left New York, which is the capital of our finance, worldwide capital for finance. And I can't
Yeah.
imagine what will happen to the stock market next week when Mondavi is then elected as mayor of the city of New York.
Oh, everything's going to be free.
That's going to be interesting. How do you turn around and tell the local bodega owner or the local grocery store that now you're going to be part of a chain of government stores that give away free food? You know, what's the point of being an owner of a business when the business is going to have to be kowtowing to the whims, the communistic whims of the mayor of New York? What happens to these people that own
But
expensive
I
property?
wonder,
They're going to take that. They say, "We'll put this up. We'll take a garage sale price to get rid of the property. We're not paying the taxes. We're not going to pay the burden that Mandami is going to go on because I earned more money than you did.
well,
That take it elsewhere."
I wonder if this is grounds for like legal action, about their rights and things and the way we function as a republic, not a democracy. I think there's going to be lawsuits.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would absolutely imagine that's going to be what is going to happen. I'm sure the Trump administration and the DOJ are actually looking into this in what they can do and probably declare martial law of the city of New York. And there are investigations going on after Zoran Mandavi as whether or not he broke his oath prior to even swearing in as an American citizen. There's proof that he has been a member of the Communist Party here in the United States, the Socialist Party here in the United States prior to swearing in and swearing that you have to swear you have no allegiance to something like the Communist Party in America. You have to
and
swear.
donors as well
So it
outside the
didn't
United States. I think he has 2 charges that they're looking into, potential charges.
campaign finance violations also. There's a lot they're going to be looking at Zoran Mandavi. I mean, he did that whole big crying spectacle about his aunt fearing to go on the subway because she was wearing a hijab. She was afraid of dirty looks. I'm sorry. Um, there are hundreds of thousands of women in the city of New York that use public transportation wearing a hijab, and many of them, when they saw what happened on 9/11, stood proudly with us as American citizens. What was done was not done against peaceful Muslims residing here in the United States. It was done by Islamic terrorist extremists. You can't equate the two. So if your aunt was one that was supported the United States, why would she fear? And now this all becomes about a separate privileged class here in the United States. And what happened to civil rights for blacks? What happened to civil rights for women? Oh, wait a minute. Women's magazine is coming out, and the front cover promoting the most beautiful women in America, and they're men. They are biological men claiming to be women. So what happens to women's rights? Are they telling me that a man is more of a woman than I am? That's what they're doing. It makes no sense. You're taking away my identity because someone has a mental problem? No, that just doesn't work. And I think America is starting to wake up. And, well, what is it? I first name Dick, originally worked for the Trumps. I have his book behind me on the shelf, and I'm not going to turn around and look. I don't want to put my back to the camera. Dick Morris, that's the name I was thinking of, made a prediction that
Roger Stone?
No, Dick Morris.
Oh, Curtis Lever.
Yeah, I said he predicted Curtis Lever.
Morris?
And so far,
No, that's
yep. But every election he made a prediction on came out. He's got a 100% track record in making election predictions. He's saying the dark horse in this is going to be Curtis Sliwa. Now, John McLaughlin, the poster, he gave me his personal card. I met him down in Savannah earlier this year. And I do want to get him on the show. So, John, if you're watching, I apologize. But he stated that with his polling, the Trump voters are not going for Sliwa. But I think with Curtis Sliwa's appearance on some of the local stations, including Newsmax, where I think it was Finnerty, and he got into a heated argument. And Finnerty's, well, shouldn't you jumped out of the race, quit. And, oh man, the fire that came out of Curtis Sliwa, I was going, I want him for mayor. I really do. So we'll see. But John McLaughlin was saying
I heard that initially he did not embrace. He didn't embrace what? Embrace NACA. I'm not sure why, but he needs them. MAGA.
Well, I don't know.
The report that I read.
Depending upon who wrote it, yeah. It could be the left trying to influence it, but I don't know. Well, listen, I'm watching the clock. That said, those that watch the show and listen in on Buzzsprout and the other locations that are across the board, because you will find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, X. We're live on X right now. Rumble and Substack, we're live on that, as well as our homepage, which is southernsense.net. And again, if you're watching us live, there's a QR code you can scan in and watch us here over on StreamYard. I got to remember where I'm at. We start each show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And today's dedication is going to go out to police officer Samuel Riveros of the Baldwin Park Police Department in California. His end of watch was Saturday, May 31st.
This community is absolutely devastated by the murder of its police officer, a 9-year veteran of the department. If you take a look to my right, you can see that is Officer Samuel Riveros' patrol vehicle, now parked by a growing memorial. You can see a lot of folks here. They have been coming by all day long. It is a heartbreaking tribute to a life lost in the line of duty.
It's extremely tragic to have to deal with this.
Visibly heartbroken, Baldwin Park Police Chief Robert Lopez delivered the devastating news.
One of our officers murdered tonight. He answered a call of duty of shots fired.
The officer killed in the line of duty has been identified as Samuel Riveros.
He was such a loving person. He was devoted to this job and he gave it his all.
Gabby Ortiz, a former dispatcher who worked closely with Officer Riveros, says he appeared to be living his dream, serving in the profession he loved.
I remember always seeing him smile and just loving to show up to work and just give it his all.
The deadly encounter happened on Saturday night around 7:12 when officers responded to reports of a man with a rifle in a Baldwin Park neighborhood near the 4200 block of Philhurst Avenue.
When they arrived, they were met by gunfire.
2 officers were shot. Officers Riveros, who was airlifted to a nearby hospital and later died, and Officer Anthony Pimentel, who is in stable condition and has since been released. A third person, believed to have been killed by the suspect, was found dead on the sidewalk.
An officer-involved shooting did occur at that time. I can't tell you how many officers fired at this time. That's still being investigated. How many shots were fired, that's all still being investigated. But the suspect was struck with gunfire, and he was transported to a local hospital in stable condition.
A somber procession made its way from Baldwin Park to Boyle Heights as the body of Officer Riveros was transported to the LA County Medical Examiner's office.
As soon as I heard that there was a police officer that got shot in Baldwin Park, you know, me and my friends that worked with him or worked together, we were like, oh my gosh, I hope it's not Sam. I hope it's not Sam, because he was one of our favorites. You know, he was just so sweet and just a great person.
Veronica Menjivar works at a coffee shop often visited by Officer Riveros.
We just all loved him. You know, when he'd walk in, we'd all, hey, Sam, and same thing, like he'd always make sure to say bye.
Veronica and many in the community have been stopping by the Baldwin Police Department to leave flowers, candles, and heartfelt messages in honor of the fallen officer.
To see one of our own, hear the tragedy is just heartbreaking.
Officer Riveros was known for his deep ties to the community he served. He loved snowboarding, was a devoted Dodgers fan, and often traveled to out-of-town games to cheer on his team.
He was just super sweet, very charismatic, just made you feel like he cared about you.
So far, authorities have not released the name of the victim found on the sidewalk, and they have not released the name of the suspect. Now, Susan, we are hearing that a memorial will be taking place here at the police department. The details are still being worked out, but it's possibly going to be on Friday.
Tomorrow, the Baldwin Park Police Department will hold a candlelight vigil to remember a beloved officer killed in the line of duty. And tonight, we're seeing yet another example of how he served his community in ways big and small.
That's right. Our Lori Perez tonight has a story of the big impression Officer Riveros made on a small member of the community.
tonight. A fleeting, touching moment between a police officer and a little boy, made even more precious as the community grieves.
What do you say?
5-year-old Jaden Castellanos loves police officers.
I want to be a police officer when I grow up. Because I want to put robbers to jail.
His grandmother says he waves at pretty much every officer he sees, but there's only one who ever stopped. Then 33-year-old Samuel Riveros.
I'm seeing him wave and jumping the police cars, and then Officer Rivera was the only one that turned on his sirens, made a U-turn and stopped, and I'm like, what happened?
When Jaden waved at Riveros as he drove by, the officer pulled a U-turn, then stopped and got out to say hello. The cell phone video from 2 years ago in Baldwin Park shows him giving the 3-year-old a sticker.
He said hi. He gave me a sticker.
And Jaden is overjoyed, jumping up and down.
He was very nice, memorable moments. Smiling, he was smiling from when he got off the car to when he went back in his car, smiling.
Riveros was killed Saturday after a gunman opened fire in a Baldwin Park neighborhood. An innocent father of 2 was also killed.
It was very sad, because he was smiling, and I don't know, I saw him 2 times around and always smiling. So I don't know, he means a lot to the community, means a lot to us.
Since then, the tributes have been pouring in. Earlier in the week, we got a picture from a group of police explorers showing the officer smiling right before he responded to his final call for service. But among the sad moments this week, Jaden sums it up best when we asked him how Officer Riveros made him feel.
Happy.
I mean, just that U-turn that officer made just to go see that kid, it made all the difference in his life.
And I loved how Officer Riveros bent down to Jaden's level. I mean, for little Jaden, he was a superhero who turned around and made a moment of time for him.
Superhero to us, too.
Indeed.
Hello, everyone. State Senator Susan Rubio. Today was an incredibly emotional day for our community. Today, we laid to rest our very own hero from our Baldwin Park Police Department, Officer Samuel Riveros. First, let me thank every single police department who joined us in mourning from across our state. The love and respect you showed today did not go unnoticed. We thank you for joining our community that was left in mourning, and your support means a lot to us. I want to thank the family for sharing stories. We knew that Sammy was an incredible police officer, but today we learned what an incredible human being he was. He never passed an opportunity to uplift others, and they shared all the acts of kindness that Sammy displayed. Once again, let's continue to keep the family in prayer. Thank you.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation.
Well, welcome back to Southern Sense, and I'm your hostess with the least mostest, Annie the Chickadee, along with Curtis C.S. Bennett, the author of, 30 some odd books now? All right.
There you go.
I'm in. Just waiting for our guests to join us, David and Umberto Canos. We had been talking about Mandavi running for office in New York City. You know, it's got a lot of people really scared, honestly, because New York has so much influence over the rest of the nation, especially because it is a financial capital of the world. So however New York goes, so may even go the rest of the nation. And I think this is where people are afraid. And I really honestly don't blame them. It's also the import capital of the world. You know, you name it, it eventually goes through the city of New York in one way or another. When we had the World Trade Center attack, the world stood at standstill for several days until New York City and Wall Street could get themselves together and get back online as fast as possible. But the world did stand still for a couple of days there. So now we have Mandavi as a possible, I mean, how would I ever explain it? But another attack on the city of New York, his background is very questionable. He had gone to Egypt and was involved in whatever's going on over there with the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't know. There's a lot of things that we don't know fully about this man. He's only 32 years old.
Okay, the way I see it, it's almost like a miniature version of the nation on hold when we got Obama. We really didn't know a lot about Obama, and because of Obama, and then Biden following him, we had a wake up call, and it was a necessary wake up call. So I see New York, if they should elect this guy, it's going to be a wake up call for them, and I think they'll come to their senses sometime midway through his term, and they'll boot out every socialist and Democrat after that.
Yeah, I'm just resending the link over so that you can dial in. For some reason, there seems a little mix up. They didn't get the link.
But that's the positive, aspects I can take out of that. If this guy wins, he's going to do so much damage that these folks are going to rebel. They may even recall him. I mean, they do have the right to recall.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see. Yeah.
But
okay,
you may have something there. Curtis Sliwa may just rise above the ashes.
I hope so. I really do hope so. Because Cuomo is slipping back. I saw a poll earlier this morning where Sliwa had gone from something like 10 or 16% up into the 20s. And that's just overnight. We've got a few more days to go. Election is next week, isn't it? Yeah. Next week is, all right, my calendar. It helps if I flip it. Yeah. Election day is the 4th. Yeah, it's the 4th. You're talking about, as of today, that's 4 days from now. So we got less than a week to go. And the world right now is holding its breath. Everyone is concentrating on this one race. And as you mentioned earlier, there are questions about his campaign finance, foreign money being influential in it. And again, when Hillary Clinton was running for senator for the state of New York, there were a lot of questions coming out of the city of New York of questionable donations, those coming possibly from communist China through Chinatown in New York City. There were donations going to Hillary Clinton that were being reported in various news outlets and that we talked about. I don't think you were with us at the time, Curtis, when Hillary was running for Senate. But through Chinatown, these were people that barely had 2 nickels to rub together, and yet their names were on a campaign finance donation in the amount of $20,000, $10,000 here, $20,000 there. Where'd the money come from? They were using it through these people and funneling it into her campaign. Matter of fact, one gentleman did go to jail because of the way money was being funneled into her campaign. But she should have been in jail too. I'm sorry, several times over. Sorry. Hillary for prison outlet. Yeah, I can see her in an orange jumpsuit very easily.
Yeah, and it seems like the Justice Department is finally going after some of these people to hold them accountable from the Biden years.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm happy to see that.
All right, I'm looking here and I'm not seeing our guest yet in here. Don't see him yet, guys. So hopefully our guest will be coming in very shortly. Just letting them know, not seeing them.
And this notion of revenge, Trump's revenge, well, if it's a revenge thing, then apparently you must have did something for somebody to have, revenge on you. It's just the way they phrase everything. I listen sometimes just briefly to left-wing media and the way they frame things. Even if Trump has a success, they have to find some way to downplay it or be dismissive about it. Yeah, he may have gotten a deal with, China, but, and then they go to all this negative stuff, they can't let the man win for nothing.
Well, what's not being reported in mainstream media is that recently there was a behind the doors meeting of China's leaders with
Xi.
Thank you very much. With Xi. And they're saying there's been an overturn of these political leaders within China. And it's actually pulling power away from Xi, making him weaker. So the question is, how much power does he really have now over China? And as he makes these deals with Trump, is it because of the new leadership that was behind closed doors that is now forcing him into these trade deals? Or are they going to turn around and in the end back out? We got to watch this very carefully because Xi has now promised a lot of things. The tariffs are not being pulled off of China at this point. They still remain. Trump is saying he's going to drop them down about 10 points. We'll see about that, whether or not he'll go from, I think it was like 59% to 49 or 57% to 50, whatever it is at this moment. It was like 10 points. And I've got the guest trying to call me. So I'm going to take this call online. David, you're online. Hang on a second. David, you're online?
Live.
Yeah,
You're
on my speakerphone.
I am so sorry. Are we live at the moment?
We are live, but I don't have you on camera. You're on my phone.
I know. I am working to do this. We had a bit of an emergency at my house. We actually had to call a technician to come and fix something. So is there a chance that you can give me 5 minutes? Unfortunately, I have the technician here, and it's pretty serious.
Oh, yes, you absolutely. Whatever you would like to do. You and
bless you.
No, you and your dad teamed up to write these series of books. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because I happen to be married to a Cuban.
Perfect timing.
Yes, and my late husband, his wife that he divorced to marry me, she was a Cuban with her sister still stuck in Cuba. So they fled Castro, and my husband, they family left in 1962. And he wanted to ask, his question to me to ask you is, what did your family know back in 1959 where your dad's family left at that point?
My grandfather was a military officer who had been part of the Batista regime, and my father will be able to speak about this more, but he was part of the Batista regime, and he was sentenced to death. He was tried for a made-up crime, and they were just trying to clean house with everyone. And my grandfather luckily escaped, and I can't wait to tell you more about that story in about 5 minutes.
Well, you take care of what's going on at home, and then if you can, join us online, that'd be fantastic.
We will.
All right.
We will. Give me 5 minutes, and I'll be ready.
Just be safe. Thank you. Oh, wow. That's a first, folks. It's the first time we've done that, but I'm glad we're able to work it out, and I hope everything's safe with him. Because my husband was asking, anyone wants to know, his name is Omar. And this is a true story. His father worked in the officers club. He managed the officers club in Guantanamo Bay. So he knew all the officers. And he knew all the officers. He knew everyone. Everyone knew him. But he also worked on one of the largest plantations on the Cuban island. And when they did come to America, it was the owner of that plantation that brought them here to the U.S. and into the town that we now live in, and his family lived in. But they left in 1962. So I was asking, and I was telling my husband, there has to be a reason. There had to be something going on that they knew about, that everyone else on the island did not understand. And that gives a whole nother shade to the story. And I'm loving to hear the story from them. If we don't get them on now today, if everything doesn't work out, we will bring them back. And that's a definite yes. And I'm looking at a couple of weeks into next month already. I got the wheels turning in my head.
Well, my question is this, and per your husband, who's Cuban, I haven't heard much about Cuba since Castro passed away. What's going on down there?
Nothing has really changed. His brother Raul is now taking over, and it's all under Raul. I was starting to say about my late husband. His wife at that was a Cuban refugee, and Yanni went actually on the Meriel boat lift down to Cuba to try to get her to come back to the United States safely. And the Cuban government has this thing is if the husband says no, the wife must stay. And the husband said, no, you're not going. Refused to let her get on the boat and come to the United States. So
she had remarried. Okay.
No. My husband divorced his Cuban wife. She did eventually remarry, and she's passed away.
And
so
that husband said no.
Yeah. His sister-in-law, the sister-in-law's husband said, no, you can't leave and join your sister in the United States. So, yeah. I mean, there's so many stories about people that have come from Cuba to the United States. And there was one point where Congress was debating whether or not opening up trade agreements with Cuba. And they were going to give like preferential treatment in certain areas. And at that time, Mark Sanford was our congressman at that time. And I actually texted him on my phone. I had his phone number, texted him directly while he was on the floor. And I'm saying, you don't understand that whatever you do with this trade agreement, it's going to go into the pockets of those elitists that were aligned with Castro. It's not going to go to the people in the street. It's not going to go to the workers out there that are in the fields and in the factories. They're not going to see a penny of this. They're still going to be going to the government grocery stores and finding they can only take home 2 eggs to feed the entire family, or a single loaf of bread for the rest of the month, or a small cup of rice for the next month. And they were saying that they're going to open up grocery stores and do all these things and help with free trade. So that's not what happened. It went into the pockets of those that were the friends of Castro. They were the ones that got the stuff. They actually went to a separate grocery store. There was a separate grocery store for the military and the elite, and then there was one for everyone else.
Wow.
And that hasn't changed.
What about this travel ban? Is that still in effect? Because if my memory serves me right, Jay-Z and Beyonce went there some years ago. Probably
There,
during Obama.
there is travel, but then
That's right.
again, the tourists that go there, and it doesn't matter who you are and how much money you got, you are going to be restricted to certain areas on the island. You're not going to be able to see the truth out there in the street. And what you see that's being filmed is carefully filmed to not show you the whole truth about what's going on in Cuba. And do you see any stories about the devastation of Hurricane Melissa that went straight over the heart of Cuba? You hear about Jamaica, you hear about all the others, but the Cubans don't want you to know. They don't want you to know what's going on down there. You know, there's so many stories that are going on that are not being told about the truth. And we need people like David and his father to let it know. We've had in the past a friend of mine, Ron Quintana Garcia, has been on, or did it was Ron Garcia? I always mix his name up. I don't know if it's Ron Garcia Fontana or anyway, Ron has been on the show a couple of times. I do have to give him a call and get him back on. Umberto Fontova, who's written a book about Cuba and his family that was there in the middle of the battles that were going on. He's been on the show in the past. So we need to get this aired out so that people know honestly what is really going on out there. And mainstream media is not going to be telling you that. And if you look at the travel brochures, you see these beautiful beaches and everything, and it's really gorgeous. But the tourists, when you go there, you only go to a certain area. They'll put you on a tour bus, but the tour guide is going to only tell you certain things and keep you away from what they don't want you to see.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we had a travel ban in place by the U.S. government, how did celebrities like Jay-Z and Beyonce circumvent that? That's the angle I was coming at.
Even if they did, once they land, they're under the control of the Cuban government, whether they realize it or not. They're going to be played like the puppet master. The puppet master is a Cuban government, and they're not going to get away from that. So hopefully David is going to get his troubles. I feel so bad now. But folks, this is actually live radio. You really can't TV. There's a podcast, whatever this is. It's live. You can't make this stuff up.
Do you know what part of the country he's speaking from or going to speak from?
I believe he's in your neighborhood.
So I'm wondering if the storm has something to do with it, his technical issues.
Oh,
I mean, we weren't really impacted. Those on the shore, of course, you know, with beach erosion, things like that, undercurrents, and we had some rain, but nothing serious. It seems like every hurricane this year so far has veered right and went up into the North Atlantic.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, we got some of the outer rings. I mean, the way out. And we had some really cold because it was dragging all the cold weather in here. And it's unusually cold, like dipping down into the 40s here. For us, that's freezing. That was freezing. I think this is the first time my mom's been able to sit on the front deck and get some sun. I mean, but the winds, and you looked at the clouds coming over, and the rain that hit us was ice cold also. But it wasn't anything to really. I ended up bringing my herbs into the house. So right now my living room has pots of basil and parsley and oregano sitting in the living room just to keep the cold from killing it. But folks, like I said, this is live radio. We had been hearing about the Democrats with this. Why didn't my thing just change? I didn't even touch the screen. I've got a ghoul inside my computer. Or I didn't touch the screen, I swear. And also it went down. Anyway, now what was I saying? The budget. Yeah, and this budget fight. It's starting to backfire on them. And I had printed out an article and it didn't come up. My printer is acting up on me. But the Washington Post, one of the most left-leaning rags you can have in the nation, is telling the Democrats it's time to stop. It's time to go for the continuing resolution, sign it, and make your other negotiations after you get the government back open. They're saying get the government open now. It's not affecting just the SNAP programs, but it's affecting the pay to the military. There are a lot of government workers that are on leave, have been laid off, and they're not getting paychecks now. Now we're hitting 31 days or into this. If I'm not correct, 31, 32, it's in that area. So if you know it, send a message to me. I don't care. Correct me. I don't care. I admit when I'm wrong. But we're already over 30 days. And our guest is calling back in. Let's try it again. Okay. All right, David, you're live with us on the air. I hope everything's all right.
Everything is all right. I'm actually, I was going to go ahead and let you know that we're trying to join via the computer, and I was wondering if you could resend me the link.
Okay, let me do that. I'm going to hang up and text you, okay?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Let's send him the text right now. And here we go. Come on. Here we go. Paste. And there we go. Done. How simple the cell phone is. You think about it, and it's funny because growing up in an age where most people wouldn't even know this, it was a rotary dial on the phone. You have a black, heavy, clunky box. That was your phone. And it hung up on the wall or sat on the desk. And the dial, you hit 0, or you lifted up the receiver and tapped it. And you asked the operator to connect you. Then they came up with the dial. And at that point, people were then able to directly dial the number.
Yeah. Dial tones.
And then the new innovation was the keypad. Now you had the touch tone rather than the dial. And then all of a sudden we had, and there was still, you still had to have a wire to the phone. It was wired into the wall. And then they came up with these, what they called mobile phones. You still had to have a wire in the wall that you plug the base in, but you could lift the handset up and walk around and it was not attached to the phone. These innovations, I grew up in, and you grew up in, and watched it all happen. And I said to a previous co-host one day, it's like, some people don't even know how to use a dial-up phone. And the question was, what's a dial-up phone?
Well, don't forget, when we had those kind of phones, you had a separate bill for long distance. And we don't have that anymore with cell phones. I mean, you could call Alaska and get a phone bill for like $200. That was a separate bill. And that's one thing I do like about cell phones. You pretty much can call anywhere in the continental USA and probably some of our territories without having a long distance.
Yes, but now we were talking about the innovations of the telephone through the years, because I grew up and I remember the telephone where you had to lift the receiver up and tap the whatever you call it underneath the receiver, the cradle, and get the operator in order to make any calls. And he said, now we're using the cell phone. We're on the internet. We're doing a live podcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, YouTube, Rumble, Substack, and my homepage, southernsense.net. All of the beauty of the innovations coming from the old black clunky phones with no dial to now these wireless genius machines we've got.
Can you believe that I actually grew up with a phone that had a cradle? We actually kept an old style phone in my house that I used as a child. It was even one of those where you had to put your finger on the number and spin the dial and then choose the next one and spin it and do the whole thing. So I actually grew up with that. We had one phone that was like that in my house, and that's the one I used all the time growing up.
I remember laughing at Gilda Radner, and she played the operator, and it was an old dial-up phone. She go, dial it up. You hear it the whiz around and go, 1 ringy dingy, 2 ringy dingy.
Well, thank you so much. Seriously, thank you so much for having me. My father is joining momentarily. We're so grateful, and I apologize for the not only technical difficulties, but life difficulties that seem to happen all in one go. We were supposed to have a technician at my house to repair the air conditioning, because if there's one place you don't want to be without air conditioning, it's Florida. Even though we're in November and not July, which is not bad. But just everything seemed to have gone wrong today. But I'm glad that we've kind of straightened it out.
Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And I have a favorite saying: defecation occurs, and it's usually on my head.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think truer words have been spoken. That is hilarious. Thank you for that.
Well, that's all right.
I really appreciate that.
My co-host is Curtis C.S. Bennett. He's an author, also retired Navy veteran, and living just, I think, a little bit north of you in Florida also. So he understands. And here I'm in South Carolina. So we're in the winter time. So it's not too bad, but still I understand it.
Yeah, well, it was cold here last night.
Absolutely not. And which part of South Carolina are you in?
I'm in what they call the heart of the Tri-Command, in between Paris Island Recruit Depot, the Marine Corps Air Station here in Beaufort, and the Navy Hospital. So, hoorah to the Marines in here.
Apparently. Yeah, so actually my family and we lived in North Carolina for quite a while. So I actually traveled back and forth to South Carolina quite a bit. I was recently up there because a friend of mine who's in the Air Force is stationed in Charleston, and we have a couple of friends of ours that are in Charleston as well. So I have a lot of love for South Carolina. I have a lot of love for the Carolinas, but South Carolina has a special place in my heart for sure.
Well, if you ever drive up north this way, you have to stop and say hi. That's for sure.
We absolutely will do that. We're looking at possibly scheduling some book signings as well at a couple of the venues in Charleston for sure. So we can definitely make a trip out of it.
Ooh, all right. Seeming that we're in the heart of the Tri-Command, there are a couple of bookstores that do book signings. So I'll probably get in contact with you and see if we can get you to swing through here. How's that? Hey,
and I think my dad has just joined me, so I'll let him say hello. Well, hello. How are you?
How are you doing, Umberto?
I can't complain. Life is good.
Yes. I had asked your son earlier because it was a question that my husband asked. He left Cuba. His family left in 1962. And the question was from him was, what is it that caused you to leave in 59? Because he said the people were all for Castro and so on and so forth. I mean, his father actually went through the lines, and in one pocket was the pass for Batista people, and in the other pocket was the pass for the Castro people. So he had to make sure he didn't hit the wrong pocket when he went through the lines.
Well, actually, my dad was a career military officer. He joined the Navy well before Batista ever took power in 52. He was a military officer under 3 presidents, counting Batista.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the first people that the communists get rid of. So on January 2nd, my father was already under arrest, accused of treason to the nation for having been a military officer. And he went through a trial, and by a miracle of God, actually was declared not guilty. And the reason for it was because my father had been sent abroad to do a course at the Naval War College in Newport. So he spent a year there, which is 57. And then in 58, my dad was sent to the OAS as part of Cuba's delegation there. So he wasn't in Cuba. And so it's very difficult to accuse somebody of a crime when they're not there.
Oh.
So he got out by a miracle of God, and my sister was born a week after he got out of jail, and they were already looking for him a week after that to put him back in jail. But this time it wasn't going to be a military tribunal. It was going to be basically summary execution by the secret police.
Wow.
So he managed to get away from them, again, by a miracle of God, and he escaped Cuba with false papers, quite frankly, on a merchant ship. So the Cuban government hadn't quite taken the control at that point that they have now, for instance. So we managed to just basically walk out of the airport in Havana, and we just flew to Miami in September of 1959.
Wow. That's I've heard some stories, but that really is really amazing. And now you're here by the grace of God in a nation that embraces freedom like no other nation before.
Yes, and we're hoping that it continues to do that. Yes.
Well, you and your son are writing a series. It's oh, good Lord, brain fart.
It's a legal fiction series.
Right, Gabriel Locke. Okay,
Yes.
because I'm looking at notes about Mondavi, and I'm going, why can't I find the name of the book? And I realize I'm looking at the wrong sheet.
Yeah, don't get me started on Mondami, okay?
Oh, I am. I do intend to do that. But I started reading the Gabriel Locke books, the first one that is out. The next one, Bound by Law, is supposed to be coming out, I believe, this coming month, November, correct?
Bound by Fate is coming out this month. Bound by Law is the first one. And Bound by Fate is the one coming out this month.
And
or this coming month.
And you're planning 7 books.
Yeah, it's seven novels in just this series. We've got a few different things planned, but hopefully by the grace of God, we'll get there. I'm not saying that we necessarily want to quit our day jobs, but it would be a nice thing to be able to do this full time.
Well, by trade, you're both lawyers.
No, actually, I'm in sales. Couldn't you tell? I'm absolutely a salesman. And my father's actually the career tenured lawyer, which I think actually made for a good writing team. I think had I been a lawyer as well, we probably wouldn't have even finished the first one. So,
well, it was a good compliment. I put my life there, and he wrote about it. The cases can't obviously be a retelling of cases that I've handled because of ethics and confidentiality and so forth. But after 40 years of practice, well, you can grab a little bit here, a little bit there, put it together, and you have a very good case. And they seem to be realistic. People actually feel that they especially like the way we portray the clients. Feel that the feelings that the clients have come through very, very clearly. And they also like the fact that I take them into the lawyers' minds and let them know how lawyers think. And all the cases are really basically cases that any one of us could have. There's no murder, there's no rape, there's no, we're not suing a huge company. It's all
the problems that everyday people go through, but nobody really talks about. I mean, think about how many people you probably know by now who have experienced divorce, or they've, had to, let's say, work with an elderly member of their families, or even elderly friends who experienced dementia or Alzheimer's, and now they're having to make the tough decision of putting them in, maybe an assisted living facility or a group home, because they can't provide that level of care. These are the things that we really focus on in Gabriel's first year. We really give you that in-depth feeling of what lawyers can do within the civil realm, because, like my father was saying, almost everything you see on TV is going to be one of those kind of Hollywood tropes. It's a murder, or it's a rape, or it's
yes, some kind of. And the lawyer's always drunk,
right? And the lawyer's either a drunk, or he's a womanizer, or he's, So we wanted to write something that was much more wholesome and something that was much truer to the actual practice of law.
Well, no, I am going to bring up Mondami, but you have to know my background. I'm a native New Yorker. All right. Not only that, I was a police officer in New York City. So when something happens in the city, it's something that really also comes and breaks my heart. And I'm looking at this guy, Mondami, and I'm going, how the hell? But knowing the politics in New York City, he just might become mayor. And that scares the bejesus out of me.
Well, it's funny because communists, and let me just call him what he is, communist. Yeah. He's not a social democrat. They picked the right moment. He saw a weakness. He saw that the current mayor was very weak. He saw that anybody who could step in his way, i.e. the ex-governor, were all very baggaged and very weak. And so he went for it. He has run a very good campaign, managed to be able to protect all the lies that he's telling, and nobody's really questioned him in depth. He says, I'm going to build 200,000 units for people to live in. And that takes at least 5 or 6 or 7 years. He won't be mayor by then. No. So, you keep on looking at all this stuff. I'm going to freeze all the rents. Well, Do you remember what happened in the 70s in New York when they froze the rents?
Mm-hmm.
People walked away from their properties. So it's, I'm surprised, but I know that some New Yorkers feel that they had no alternative.
I have a slightly different view of really Mamdani's prerogatives, and all I can say is that I'm just very glad that right now I believe there's a motion and it's gaining quite a bit of steam to make it an actual law in the country where if you have dual citizenship, you cannot be part of elected office. And I think that is a major point in our nation. The allegiance needs to be only to the United States of America and not anywhere else. And I'm curious to know where his allegiances lie.
Well, that's true. You think about that. We have several people in Congress already with dual citizenship, and you hear anti-American stuff coming out of their mouth as they are on the floor of Congress. And I agree. If you are a dual citizenship, how do you have total allegiance to the United States of America? But that also brings up the slippery slope is if you happen to be Jewish, that you automatically have dual citizenship in Israel, the United States. Do you now swear sole allegiance to only the United States before you can take office?
Well, yeah, actually, there's a law that if you serve in the armed services of any other country, you can't be an American. So you have to renounce your citizenship. So it always has. I have always questioned how dual citizens can go serve in a different country in the armed forces and then come back and say they're American citizens. That it runs contrary to the law. Now, for whatever reasons, the laws haven't been enforced.
All right. Well,
that could happen in the future.
Well, David and Umberto, I'm going to schedule you to come back. It'll be a little bit later on in the next month, but I must have both of you back on. There is no ands, ifs, or buts about that. Promise me?
We promise. It's not even a question. I just apologize for the difficulties that we had. It was really unexpected, and I just want to say thank you for even allowing us to come on. Thank you.
Now you're allowed to use the phrase I use, defecation occurs.
We can do that. We'd be happy to do that. Before we go, I did want to ask: have you completed reading the first book, or are you still kind of getting through it?
I'm still going through it. I only got access to it just a day and a half ago, 2 days ago. So,
oh, wow.
And that was while I was heading up to Mount Pleasant to have a procedure on my back. So.
Oh goodness! Well, we hope that you recover very quickly, and well. And I cannot wait to know what you think when we speak to you again. And you've gotten a little further along in the book.
Well, I like what I have read so far. Okay, so I'll give you that. All right. Well, God bless, and I'll get a hold of you guys and get you both on it within maybe about 3 weeks.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
God bless. All right, David and Umberto Cancio. They have their own book called, again, I've got the wrong notes in front of me, Gabriel Locke, a series going on that you can find online on their website. I've got Nathan Worcester. There goes my camera again. Here we go, Nathan. Just bear with me. I've got this tricky camera that likes to pull me in and out from the Epoch Times, or just I drive some people crazy when I say the Epic Times.
It does. It does.
I do see another person. I do see another person in the green room, but they're not completely on yet. So we'll keep on going anyway until they get themselves set up. You have a bunch of things you wanted to talk about that's been going on. And one of them, I was just talking to our previous guest, going on with Mondavi running in New York City. And I think the nation itself is holding its breath, waiting to see what happens in New York City. And what happens there definitely influences the rest of our nation and the world.
Absolutely. I mean, it sets a precedent. I think we're seeing also kind of an internal war among Democrats. You have this evidenced by Chuck Schumer, as Trump has said, and I think this is accurate. He's someone on the left. He's a liberal, but he's not a Mamdani kind of guy naturally. But on the one hand, you have people, sort of the more centrist faction of the party, groups like Welcome PAC, and they just issued a big policy memorandum really explicitly saying that some of the identity politics stuff, some of the other issues that Democrats have been advocating over the past few election cycles. They need to step back from that and move more towards the center, especially when it comes to getting people like, a Jared Golden in Maine or a John Fetterman in Pennsylvania elected. And then on the other hand, you have someone like Mamdani, who's whatever you want to say about him, he has proven to be a very effective politician. Some might look at the promises that he's made and, they might wonder, is this stuff he's going to deliver on, or is this kind of like a, Music Man phenomenon? But, this is something that a lot of Democrats, especially younger Democrats, I think they frankly often tend to be more explicitly socialist. They tend to be further on the left. I think they're raring to take the reins of the party. It's kind of a mirror, actually, of what we're seeing in the Republican Party, where I think you might have been addressing this previously, but the statement from Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation that has been so divisive in support of Tucker Carlson, some people coming out strongly in favor of it, some people strongly opposed to it, questioning the defense of Carlson. There's a clear generational split here where I think we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I think Mamdani and then Tucker Carlson, in their own respective ways, they kind of represent the futures of those two factions in American politics. It seems very possible to me that we could be in the future looking at that.
Well, and there's been several attempts recently over the years of splitting the Republican Party. You have the Doge people, the Freedom Caucuses, but they don't completely break. They all still kind of like hang on. Matter here in South Carolina, there's been some major fights and inroads that have been made, and we've been able to keep the core identity of the Republican Party here. There are other states I'm not seeing it as cohesive as we have it here, but I don't think it's as bad as what we see in New York.
Yeah,
it's like the Republican Party basically doesn't even sound like it's existing in New York.
Well, don't tell that to Lee Zeldin if you run into him. But I mean, it's unfortunately kind of maybe not quite the same situation as what's happened to the Democrats in Florida, where they've essentially been very effectively marginalized by the Republicans, by Rick Scott, by Ron DeSantis, by various others. But yes, in New York, you even look at as I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was pointing out, there are many states, I think the example he said it was Massachusetts, where something like 40% of the electorate votes for Republicans, but there are no Republicans in the Congress. And so what is that? That's a situation where a significant portion of the electorate, they're just not represented.
Well, everything that happens in New York when you do voting is actually Albany and New York City. And when I lived in New York, I was born and raised there. Nassau and Suffolk counties on Long Island were solid red, and they were solid Republicans. And you had large portions of Queens and amazingly areas in the Bronx, Staten Island, but the core of New York always ended up liberal left, and Albany, and that's what controlled most of the elections. You go upstate New York, you're lucky if you find a liberal to yell at. But that a lot of that has changed over the years, and I was shocked to find out that Long Island, having gone left, liberal, and that really blew my mind because that was always the heart and core of the Republican Party, and maybe now that may start to be cohesive now, start to regain those areas once again. Otherwise, we'll never see another Republican mayor like Pataki in New York.
Yeah,
not mayor, governor. Boy, I promoted him.
Push back a little bit. I mean, we did see in some of these recent cycles, a guy like Mike Lawler winning. Some of these more, to be electable in a state like New York, you're going to have a more moderate Republican who gets into office. And then we had not too far away in New Jersey, Jeff Van Drew switching parties to the Republicans. Kind of a similar area, I think, in many ways to Greater New York, to Long Island, that area near like the Jersey Shore that he represents. And even talk. I mean, I could see New Jersey becoming a purple state, and that's not the same as the political realities in New York, but it's fairly similar. I mean, I think that some of these predictions I just think are becoming a little more difficult with Trump because he has really reshuffled things such that, is it kind of implausible that New York would go red? Yes. On the other hand, you have strangely enough, some conservatives like Bill Kristol saying that he would vote for Mamdani, George Will saying that Mamdani would be a good mayor. And least from George Will's perspective, he said, well, these cities, they need to go through socialism. They need to go through that to then get out on the other side, which I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical.
That's like a little bit more tongue in cheek.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of that, but you do wonder, depending on how the next few years shape up, is it possible we're going to see a swing to the right in New York City or New York State as a whole? I don't know. Not totally implausible to me, but it probably won't look like the politics of a South Carolina. It's not going to be. You're not going to have a Nancy Mace representing New York.
Oh, no. And we may not even have Nancy Mace representing South Carolina either as our congresswoman or as governor. It doesn't look like she's going to win in any shape or form.
Nathan, who do you think is going to win this, and I'm talking nationwide, redistricting war that's going on? Do you think it's going to be the Democrats or Republicans when it comes to fixing this gerrymandering problem that we have in these states like Illinois?
I think that the Republicans have more to gain through the redistricting war. I think probably on balance, if you look at my understanding, and I want to make sure I'm like up to the minute, but Indiana was wavering a bit on this, and then it appears they've opened up. They've said they're willing to go ahead with redistricting. Of course, on the other hand, you have Indiana, or rather California. I suspect Republicans are going to come out ahead on this, and it might also be contingent on what the Supreme Court decides, some other factors. But it strikes me that from the Republican perspective, it's probably a winning proposition, especially if these state legislatures that ultimately call the shots on this, if they're going to be responsive to the calls from party leadership, from President Trump, to move on this. And generally speaking, they have been. It's a contrast to, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but President Trump calling for the filibuster to be abolished. And I
was going to ask you about that. That's on my notes to ask you about eliminating the filibuster. And that has been a key use in Congress for both parties.
Yes.
Now, if you eliminate that completely, neither party can do the filibuster. But will that, I'm trying to think of the right words. Will that come back to bite us in the butt?
I think, as you point out, both parties have used it, and my understanding is that the real modern rejuvenation of this issue was with Harry Reid in 2013. This was getting through Obama nominees. So it's fair to say that, in the modern era, Democrats did kind of start this fight. And I think that might be based on the fact that they see it as potentially advantageous. We're looking at the Senate map right now. It's possible that, through this coming midterm for a number of years to come, Republicans will have the advantage in the Senate. But that could change. And I think that, a few things. Just as a general principle, I can see the argument that I'm hearing from filibuster defenders that at the end of the day, the Senate is supposed to be more deliberative. It's supposed to be less responsive to the will of the majority, because that's how it was created. It's kind of like a quasi-aristocratic body. For better or for worse, it's meant to be like the House of Lords, in that it is a little more prone to negotiation, which can be very frustrating. On the other hand, we've seen the nuclear option invoked more and more often. Trump, during his first term, it was invoked to get Neil Gorsuch across the line into the Supreme Court. This was something that Biden pushed to carve out an exception to the filibuster in January 2022 on voting rights legislation. And then there was another push midway through the year in an attempt to codify Roe versus Wade. And the only opposition in those cases was from Kyrsten Sinema and from Joe Manchin, who both later went on to become independents rather than Democrats. And of course, they were both basically drummed out of the Senate. Or in Manchin's case, he lost an election, but he had no support from other Democrats by that point. So, I think it would, if I were a Republican strategist, I would not be calling to eliminate the filibuster, but I can understand the frustration that people see with the CR just not moving forward, with what seems like just totally intractable, just endless gridlock in Congress, inability to pass a budget, or inability to do things through regular order regularly is. I don't see that going away. I don't know if maybe getting rid of the filibuster would address that in the short term, but yeah, it's hard to necessarily see it being a good development long run.
But we're seeing also, as you mentioned before, there's areas of the Democratic Party in the Democratic area that are calling for these leaders in in the party, like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, to stop and do the continuing resolution, get government back open. And,
Yes.
and you have the Washington Post already calling them. The Washington Post.
Well, it's now Jeff Bezos' Washington Post, to be fair. But yes, no, I think the big one that stood out to me was you had the CEOs of American Airlines, United, Southwest, and Delta. And the one that's really striking is United, because if you actually go in and you look at the political contributions from people at United, they skew way towards the Democrats, especially in congressional races. I don't know if you remember, but over the years, they've kind of been, they were even involved with the Biden administration in some sustainable fuel work. They just,
the planes didn't quite last very well on them. I don't think I want to fly on one of them.
They've been, I think, more than a lot of those other airlines generally aligned with the Democrats. You also had the leader of the Teamsters Union, who did come out and avoid explicitly endorsing a candidate, which for the Teamsters, that's a big deal in 2024, and has, he's been in conversation with a lot of people in the Trump administration, and he stood alongside them and said, we need to reopen the government. And of course, the really big one was the American Federation of Government Employees, this massive federal workers union, again, very strongly aligned with the Democrats, as you would expect, coming out now days ago and saying this has to happen. Tim Kaine, I appreciate a politician when they have a clever answer. Tim Kaine was asked about this, and his response afterwards was, and I'm paraphrasing here, I know that they would not like us to just accept a deal with the Republicans where they go ahead and then they immediately turn around and make healthcare cuts. So I know they would not want me to vote for the continuing resolution, even though they're telling me to vote for the continuing resolution, which is, due credit to politicians for figuring out
being honest.
The clever thing to say. Yeah, let's put it that way.
Actually, be honest about what they were thinking. Oh my God, a politician saying, I'm waffling, but don't tell anyone I'm waffling.
Well, interesting thing about him, he's also one of the guys who's talking about healthcare and other issues to Republicans behind the scenes, alongside, you have Katie Britt, Alabama Republican. She recently met with Chuck Schumer to try to negotiate. And so I think, to me, another telling detail is that over the past few days, there have not been that many press conferences with Democrats. Hakeem Jeffries has not been coming as often around the Capitol to make his case. Johnson has continued to make that case, including today. He held a press conference. So yeah, from where I'm sitting, and I try to call the shots, down the middle, it looks to me like the Democrats' position is weakening. Of course, I don't know if you saw this, but there was just a ruling from a judge that the SNAP benefits from that contingency fund, that they are legally supposed to flow. So that could relieve a source of pressure on Democrats, also ensure that people keep getting food stamps, which, 40 plus million Americans use those. So I don't know. I mean, it's possible it could keep going on, but it seems to me right now like most of the pressure is on the Democrats as opposed to the Republicans, but they're both facing their own pressures.
Well, we got a lot also. I'm going to switch the subject a little bit going on south of the border, especially in South America. And Trump has hit another vessel. I shouldn't say Trump himself, but
Trump himself. He got on the Tomahawk. Yes. I don't know if it was a Tomahawk, but yeah.
But now everyone's up in arms, and especially Rand Paul, saying he's usurping the power of Congress to declare war. But we have an invasion coming in across our border. There are people deliberately coming across the border to deal death, fentanyl. I mean, it is a death sentence coming on those boats. So how can we turn around and say, well, this boat, because it sailed out of that country, we're not attacking that country. We're just attacking a vessel that is bringing death to our country. So there's a fine line. Are we declaring war? Should there war be declared? Or are we simply protecting our border against a criminal element that may be using another country to launch, but it's a criminal element attempting to invade us?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there. And in defense of Rand Paul and some of the other skeptics, I think there are questions about, are all or some or all, to what extent are they actually delivering drugs? Is this a major source. People will point out that a lot of the drug flow comes from the Pacific rather than the Atlantic side. Although, of course, now Trump has brought pressure to bear on Gustavo Petro, the leader of Colombia, on that same issue. So that would be the other big source of drugs. And we're also seeing a military buildup in the Caribbean. I believe it was the Nimitz carrier group, or another carrier group that was moved from the Eastern Mediterranean just off the coast of Venezuela. So I think it's fair to say that even if it's not a war,
the Ford.
Pardon? Yep.
USS Ford.
So okay, then so there is this context in which you wonder to what extent is this are we at the stage where eventually there will need to be a war powers resolution factor here, and apparently there was just a White House briefing, the initial briefing at least, on the Senate side. Perhaps there has been another one that I'm unaware of, but it was just Republicans. You had Democrats saying, from the armed services or intel committees wondering, why were we not brought in on this? Then, of course, we did have a bipartisan briefing in the House, and people coming out of that with questions. I think it remains to be seen, because certainly a lot of these groups originating from Venezuela or with ties to Venezuela, like Tren de Aragua, that's been declared a foreign terrorist organization. There's a link there to transnational drug activities, according to the FBI, according to other law enforcement in the United States. And so, yeah, it's going to be, for me, interesting to see how this develops further. Are we going to see land targets struck? If so, what is the Senate's reaction going to be? From where I'm sitting, it looks like something that could escalate pretty quickly. Remains to be seen whether there's going to be an attempt at a regime change, taking Maduro out. Maduro is, I think it is worth noting, even before Trump set his sights on him, someone who's been pretty broadly unpopular for a lot of reasons, including that most recent election, which was generally, not thought to be free and fair, thought to be basically a stolen election. So, yeah, we're looking at an evolving situation, and I just want to try to get as much as I can from some of these people on the Intel and Armed Services committees as they keep reacting to what they're hearing or not hearing.
Back in the good Lord, late 80s, early 90s, I had traveled to Colombia, Caracas, Bogota, and Caracas itself was such a beautiful, beautiful seaside city. Absolutely gorgeous, perfect for tourism. Bogota, it was a completely different story. It was like night and day when you flew in there, because we were in a private club, and we were the only Americans there. It was about 4 of us sitting at a separate table that you had to pay. I think at that time it was $2,000 a year for membership, but because we were going with a certain individual, we were able to get in. But the soldiers came in, and they walked around table to table, pointing the rifle at the people sitting at the table, and saying, give me your papers. Now here's a table of 4 Americans, and of course I'm sitting there. I got a scotch in front of me, and here comes the pointing at me, papers. So I pull out the passport and everything, put it down. I pick up my glass of scotch. I keep on drinking it. And the guy, of course, for us, our host, is looking at me like, is she crazy? And afterwards, after they left, he goes, why'd you do that? I says, well, this is a damn good scotch. I'm not going to waste it. It's my last day. I'm going to enjoy it. I may be a crazy American, but what are you going to do when you're in this type of situation? You need to stay calm. You don't freak out. And that's what I was thinking. Just do whatever you normally do and be calm. But this is now what the people in Venezuela are living under every day. They see this. They live under this regime like that I saw the beginning of back in the late 80s and 90s. And this is now what all of Venezuela is. And I don't think the American public understands that.
Yeah, I think it's hard not to look at all these, issues that the Trump administration, I think, was elected on. How they all intersect. There's a reason that there was a huge influx of people from Venezuela because of the terrible conditions in Venezuela. And so I can understand why there would be a strong push for some sort of improvement to the situation. How is that going to happen under Chavism? On the other hand, my inner libertarian, millennial who lived through the Iraq War, I can understand also the concern with, okay, if the United States in the interest of making things better there, if we get into some sort of protracted engagement, even like a ground invasion, would this be like a long run, very expensive, very intensive kind of cleanup operation in the jungle, something very, something that might involve like a large number of boots on the ground? And I'll just confess, I'm not a military reporter, not a military specialist, but that's definitely a question that has been raised to me by some of my colleagues who are. So, but on the other hand, you look at what the Trump administration's track record has been on, for example, the Iran strikes, and at least so far, we just saw limited strikes, no boots on the ground, and perhaps whatever ends up happening, if something happens, we'll end up with a similar situation.
And I really believe that it will be a surgical strike if anything goes down, just like you said in Iran. But in defense of the Trump administration, and when it comes to people like Rand Paul, we didn't declare war in Korea. We didn't declare war in Vietnam, Panama, what's that, Grenada?
Grenada.
And what we're doing over there in the Middle East. So, I mean, I think that's a case he can press.
Mm-hmm.
Having presidential power like Bush did.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you mentioned Korea, and this is what drives me crazy. The longest war the United States has ever been in is the Korean War. There has never been a peace treaty. There has been a truce, and we are still at war with North Korea, whose ally is China, which makes it come around that now we just went over there to China and he was making all patty cake with Z. And China is still aiding the person that we're still fighting in North Korea. But anyway, we're down to our last 2 minutes here, Nathan. It has been a pleasure having you. I apologize for bringing you on late, but we had a problem with our previous guests. So everything kind of like, this is live. This is what happened live. We're not scripted. And that's why I guess
I think you might remember that Bill O'Reilly line, we'll do it live. I think there's another word in there, but sometimes you just got to roll with it, right?
Right. Well, Nathan, you're welcome to come back, and we're going to have to definitely get you back on and a little bit longer because there's so much more. We had Milo, how do you pronounce it? The new guy that got reelected in South America, and how he turned Milei, right? And how he's actually turned the nation around. And now we got a friend there in South America that we didn't have before. But Nathan, God bless you. Happy Halloween.
Yes,
and we'll be talking soon. All right. You take care. Check Nathan out over at the Epoch Times, the epochtimes.com. And here we go. We're down to our last minute again, Curtis. No ending to the show. We're coming back next week. We're going to bring back Steve Gorman. He was supposed to be on with us also. He was having technical difficulties also. I sent him a message saying that I'm going to try to work with him over the week and try to get him back on, because we also remember we had the problem with Bernie Flowers where he wasn't able to join us, and we were able to walk off camera and figure out what was going on with his computer and why. So we'll do the same with Steve and get him back on next week. But you also have Gary Barvet also wanted to come back on, so I slipped him in also. So we had, for people who don't know, Gary Barvet is someone running for president, and we'll see what happens on that with that, Curtis.
Which country?
Here in the United States. But with that, I would say thank you for joining us. Good night and God bless. And join us next week on southernsense.net. Until then.